So we'll welcome the first group to the stand.
Just one point there, if I may.
Yes.
There was a late request, and it may be just in the email lists of various people, but I've seen it and I've forwarded it to Sandra this morning, but of course Sandra may not have seen it yet, from the City Centre Residents Group, and this is on item 11 and C2, the Victoria Street Linear Park. Has that been noticed, that request, and responded to?
Yes, it has, and the information that was circulated by the group has been made available in Nexus for councillors this morning. Unfortunately, the request was late.
Okay, just a question related to that. We're 6 months into the council, and I've just become aware that the City Centre Advisory Board has not been re-established. And ordinarily we would be hearing from the full advisory board representing all the members on the linear park. Why has that board not been convened?
This came up last week, actually, brought to my attention, and it hadn't been convened, and so we're about to convene it. And I'll be represented on it as a city resident. Okay, so we are convening that now. I just slipped under the radar.
Okay, we'll pick it up later when we get to the item.
Quite happy.
Thank you.
Welcome the Local Government New Zealand President Stuart Crosby and Vice President Sam Broughton.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to acknowledge yourself, elected members, Jim, you and your team, and all that are here. I'm Stuart Crosby, President of Local Government New Zealand. Our Vice President Sam Broughton is not here. I have with me Scott Necklin, Deputy Chief Executive, who's involved in membership benefits. First of all, I want to acknowledge the recent floods, adding to the significant challenges that are already here in Auckland and the balance of Aotearoa, New Zealand. We do not take our membership for granted and respect the process of our members considering the value proposition of the membership. You've read the paper, which gives you an overview of our governing structure, our constitutional objectives, etc., so I won't go into that. LGNZ that you see today is vastly different to the one of 10 years ago. It's on a course of continual improvement to seek to represent its members to the highest level. And as we are operating in this highly disruptive environment that you're all aware of, we believe that we need to constantly change. We've changed from just being fundamentally an objectional protest group to seek to influence good outcomes for our members and their communities. And what I mean by that is we like to get into the conversation early to help influence good outcomes. As an elected member myself, I appreciate as decision makers, you'll put priority on different elements of the issues in front of you. In my 36 years of being an elected member, I've never known such a disruptive environment for our sector and the challenges ahead of us. It's even more challenging than the 88-89 reforms. And there's a big question, of course, around the sustainability of the current arrangements in local government. It's critical that we're in a position to speak as one, be cohesive, and have the strength of the whole, which provides leadership and strong links to the government of the day. Yes, Auckland is large, I do appreciate that, and you have your own connections to the government of the day, but being part of a representative group will add strength and not diminish it. When the government of the day seeks representation on various working groups, etc., they come to Local Government New Zealand to help facilitate that. They do very rarely speak to individual councils. Despite the scale of Auckland, which I've noted, your recent flooding events, which were significant, demonstrated you're as vulnerable as the smallest council in New Zealand. And of course, it was the local government family that came and supported you in that emergency phase. To be a member of Local Government New Zealand, Auckland and the local boards can participate and have access to all of our networks, be they Timawata, young elected members, the metro sector, and as you're a unitary council, you're also heavily involved in our regional sector. And there's a misconception, of course, that Auckland is a big metro. Well, you're also a very, very large, probably the largest rural sector in New Zealand. And there are some critical issues happening there in that space at the moment, which we're heavily involved in, particularly in essential fresh water, where that regional sector and Auckland City Council are currently participating in its delivery, which is a challenge. If you're focused on the cost of membership, which is an element you absolutely should be, and you believe that not being a member of LGNZ would save you around $350,000 to $400,000, then I'd refer you to section 31, page 45 of your agenda. The second bullet point demonstrates tangible financial benefits of the streetlight dimming profile of over $1 million per annum. And Auckland City, via Auckland Transport, have verified these realised gains. And I'll just ask Deputy CEO Scott to expand a little bit further on that.
Thank you, Stuart. Look, I appreciate that this is in part a commercial decision, and as Stuart's already identified, and it's clear in your report that there is a financial benefit by using our LED street lighting profiles. What I just wanted to touch on was the time and effort and the complexity that it takes to actually develop a profile. So several people had tried before us, before we took up the challenge, over a number of years and had not been successful in achieving a profile. We took up the challenge about 3 years ago, and it took us 2.5 years to secure the profile through the Electricity Authority. It then took us another 6 months to actually then work through the retailers to actually get that embedded into their operations. So it does take quite a bit of time. The process for developing it is very technical, and there's a very robust process to get it approved through the Electricity Authority. So I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's important to your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And of course, there are other financial benefits as well, including the ratepayer fund financing scheme, which is being developed. And also we were integral in developing the local government funding agency, which has provided significant benefits. And finally, I just want to note that the vast majority of your local board members also wish to remain as party to Local Government New Zealand. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, Your Worship. Happy to take questions either now or after Logan Sold has spoken.
I've got two questions and from the floor, and then you'll be around for morning tea to take online others later. But I've got Councillor Darby and Councillor Walker. Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for coming up. Just in terms of the listening that the Tier 1 councils get at Local Government New Zealand, I know this has been a particular point. You know, you've got a broad membership, big church there of a lot of provincial councils, district councils, small councils. But when it comes to local government conferences and, say, a decision on berm parking, for example, big problem in the urban areas, the Tier 1 councils tend to get trumped by the provincial view. How do you give weight to the Tier 1 council? I'm not just talking about Auckland here, but indirectly Auckland. How do you give weight to those big, meaty urban issues? And I'm not suggesting just berm parking is one of the big, meaty issues. How do you give weight to those big urban issues at LGNZ that the Tier 1 councils are dealing with at the coalface every day, which small provincial district councils are not? How do we get heard and represented strongly on those, you know, those really difficult issues and get your representation?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. And I think you've just demonstrated the complexity and the variety of local government in New Zealand. So we are broken down into 4 sectors, one a rural, a provincial, a regional and a metro. So you're part of the metro group and you're also actually part of the regional group by being a unitary council. So our structure allows them to meet, set their own agenda. It's actually quite new now, and they're doing that, their own priorities, and they feed back to National Council, and then we work through those priorities as a whole. And most of it would involve meeting various ministers, various senior officials. So we do have access to both the Prime Minister and all the ministers pretty relatively quickly, but more importantly the senior officials who are developing policy. So that's the mechanism which Auckland and the other metros can feed through their issues via us to the appropriate people in the government of the day and then back. The other mechanism is at our AGM through remits as well, which is often used as well, and that also is then built into our work program.
Can I just add further to that, in that Auckland Council automatically, as part of our constitution, gets 3 positions on our governing body, so on our National Council, so 2 from the Auckland governing body and also 1 through local boards. There's also ability to influence, I guess, strategic decisions that are made at National Council and representation to government from there as well.
Thank you for that, Councillor. All right, well, thank you very much for that presentation. I've got a motion here to receive that. Me, Councillor Leone, all those in favour? Aye. Contrary? No, thank you.
Councillors, we have an electronic attendance request from Councillor Sayers under 3.3.3b.
Happy to move.
Contrary? Okay, welcome, Councillor. I'd like to bring forward the Auckland Young Elected Member Network, Logan, Sil and Narissa Henry, please. Morning, Logan. Morning, Narissa.
Right, tēnā koutou katoa. Morena, councillors, Mayor Brown, it's great to be here. Ko Logan Sewell tōku ingoa, second term member of the Franklin Local Board and co-chair of the Young Elected Members of Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm joined by my wonderful colleague.
Kia ora koutou katoa, Narissa Henry Aho. I'm third term elected member to Mongakeke Tamaki Local Board and have sat on the Young Elected Members Committee my whole time.
Right, so we're going to do this in very quick succession. It's going to be a busy day. First, a bit of background information. So young elected members, what's a YEM? It's those aged between 18 and 40 elected to local government. They're a very small cohort, but there's over 150 across this country. Mayors, chairs, councillors, local and community board members. Auckland has 34 YEMs, including councillors, local board members, deputy chairs and chairs. There is at least 1 YEM in every district in Auckland. So Local Government New Zealand is a critical networking connection for our network. It would be isolated from the rest of the country's members without it. It is the only significant forum to share ideas and expertise with our fellow elected members across the country at a time when we need this more than ever. The 6 areas we'd like to highlight in very quick succession. So as the YEM co-chair, I've had the privilege for a short time of sitting on National Council. Each of the 13 mayors on National Council elected to represent the views of councils across this country have given a clear view that Auckland should retain its membership at the LGNZ table. Namely, the mayors of Christchurch, Wellington, Hamilton, Hutt City, Wairoa, Gisborne, Central Hawke's Bay, Selwyn, Waimakariri, the Far North Central Otago, Hauraki, and the chair of the Horizons Regional Council. Secondly, there's a rather minor thing where LGNZ delivers a number of programs that we here at Auckland Council tend to duplicate. There are a few examples within the report, and happy to expand on that later. But where this happens, LGNZ has the added benefit of a national lens and the connection with other elected members from different communities across the country, both coastal and rural, that I really want to highlight there. LGNZ is the only organisation that steps in to support councils when a council is brought into disrepute, both legally and reputationally, and this happens often. You'll see it noted that Auckland has directly benefited from this, but there are still a large number of situations that happen every single year where the national body steps in to benefit our entire sector. My final point before I hand over to Narissa, and it has been mentioned before, is that a majority, 16 of our local boards, support the retention of membership. 16. And these are boards that are having 50% of their budget slashed, and there is still a clear view to be a part of this network. That shows a clear reason to stay a part of LGNZ as a whole. Right, Oh, getting fiery, handing over to Narissa. Kia ora.
And just from the young elected members sector, we do have a close relationship with our Te Marawata sector, which is our elected membership for all Māori across New Zealand. And our DNZ, we are the only network that provides the support for Te Marawata as well. And we just also have the added benefits of being able to have information given to us faster than what it does trickling down from the governing body down to our local boards. And we can give some examples later as well, which would also be highlighted. But these are just two sectors that young elected members are a part of and supporting the retention of our GNZ membership.
And so just to finish there, our GNZ membership should be viewed as an investment to our sector, our council and our people, not a cost. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou katoa.
Questions from Karen Leone, please.
Kia ora korua, ngā mihi nui kia korua, mō tō kōrero tēnei ata. My question really is, well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge you both as being, amazing leaders in your space and influential for the next rangatahi and young people that will come into local government. I know one of the concerns that's been raised is around the funds, obviously, for us to be in LGNZ. But I'm also aware that a lot of YEM members actually do their own fundraising and do that privately in order to get to these conferences. So I just wanted to, first of all, ask that question, and also I wanted to get some feedback for the other councillors around how you believe it has been, influential and effective in your role as local board members to be part of LGNZ.
Kia ora, thank you, Councillor. So I get the first part of your question, absolutely. So we have young elected members who quite literally fund their own attendance to these conferences that they would otherwise not have access to. There are different examples where community organisations have funded young elected members so they can be a part of this. And that kind of stuff is kind of unheard of within our sector. So that would be my first point. Moving on to how it supported me, every time we meet within the sector, and we all know here being an elected member is a difficult role. It is making incredible decisions always in the public face, and we have this new generation of leaders coming up. And I can tell you right now that a majority of our YEMs, they come home at the end of the day, like many do, and go, is this worth it? Is it worth it to hang around and put up with all of this stuff and go through, I guess, the challenges, a lot of them on top of other jobs that they have, because they can't afford to do both at the same time. That's really key. So I think, I lost track where I was going there, but Judah.
Yeah, no, I can think of two examples where the young elected members have come together as New Zealand and advocated for certain remits. The first one would be the childcare allowance. So we done a study in our first term of 2016 to 2018 to show that why young people aren't standing, and childcare was one of the main barriers. So we got submissions from over 42 of our young elected members, some supported by people without children as well, which is amazing. And we brought that to the LGNZ table, and it was actually supported across New Zealand to go ahead, and thankfully some councils implemented that. Another one was when we came together and we submitted to have a seat at National Council, and that was a collective effort from young people across New Zealand as well. So those are just two examples I can think of. We have done more in the space of upholding te tiriti, the environment. We have hui's every month, and then as a full sector of New Zealand, every 3 months as well. So.
Kia ora.
Thank you very much for that presentation and the questions and answers. I'll move that we receive that, and seconded by Councillor Leone. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Thank you very much. Is Anna Radford present? Would you like to come? Good morning.
Kia ora koutou. My presentation today is not intended as a criticism of co-governance in itself. However, we're concerned that Auckland Council is interpreting its Te Puna Maunga Authority co-governance responsibilities in a divisive way that fails the communities it serves. This is evidenced by the Maunga Trees situation, which saw occupation and legal action with more possible, and growing distrust of the authority and the council. Auckland Council helped create this situation by abandoning its responsibilities towards the social, economic, environmental and cultural well-being of the communities it represents. Furthermore, it has not meaningfully considered Aucklanders' views and preferences in relation to authority policies and practices, nor held the authority to account. The Council's representatives on the authority, the governing body, local boards and unelected officials all have overlapping but distinct responsibilities in this co-governance relationship. Yet there's a lack of clarity around how those responsibilities should benefit all Aucklanders. I'll now discuss what was originally proposed for this co-governance relationship and suggest a constructive approach to effecting change that benefits all. Although the treaty settlement provides for the Tāmaki Collective's members exercising mana whenua and kaitiakitanga over the maunga, it is not a carte blanche arrangement. This is evidenced by the requirement that the maunga are held by the trustee for the common benefit of the collective and the other people of Auckland. It is also evidenced by the TMA's establishment as a co-governance body. The maunga are not private property, they are ratepayer-funded public reserves, and the authority is subject to local government legislation provisions. In other words, just because the authority is a statutory body does not mean it can do whatever it likes. These days, many council personnel appear to believe the council will fail in its treaty-related obligations if it disagrees with anything the authority wants. Consequently, the public have been refused permission to present TMA-related concerns to their local boards. Yet those same local boards represented their communities when they made submissions in a recent TMA public consultation. When challenged over one local board's decision to refuse a maunga-related delegation, a senior council executive stated, "Showing respect for the statutory authority of the TMA is part of how Auckland Council honours its treaty obligations. As such, requests to counter or undermine a TMA decision are very sensitive matters." Yet historical council documents and minutes relating to the TMA's setup refer to local communities playing an important role in maunga stewardship and local boards advocating on behalf of their communities to ensure maunga-related planning and maintenance takes local considerations into account. This sentiment underpinned the Council's decision for its Maunga Authority membership to comprise 3 governing body and 3 local board members, thus providing regional and local perspectives. Being a good co-governance partner doesn't require agreeing to everything, particularly if a significant proportion of the community has concerns around what is proposed or it undermines council policies and or represents poor use of ratepayer money. That's why the council must be crystal clear about its roles and responsibilities and align policies and processes accordingly. The first step is to understand its obligations towards the Tāmaki Collective and the other people of Auckland. Council can do this by agreeing clear and unambiguous answers to these 4 questions. 1. What exactly is Council's role as a 50% partner in this co-governance relationship? 2. How should all parts of the organisation fulfil those obligations? 3. If the Council's only there to represent the Tāmaki Collective's interests rather than the other people of Auckland's, then what value is it actually adding and how is this co-governance? And 4. If Auckland Council was intended to be a disempowered party, then why is the governing body required to consider the authority's annual operational plan and budget, and why are public consultations held around it? Answering these questions could be done by way of a workshop or meeting that includes independent legal experts, elected and unelected personnel, and community members who have been at the pointy end of this co-governance relationship. Mr Mayor and councillors, I request this matter be referred for investigation to a governing body meeting or workshop by the 30th of June this year. The resulting agreed outcome should inform all council policies, processes. Is that 4 minutes or the end? Sorry. Oh, can I just have 4 more sentences? The resulting agreed outcome should inform all council policies, processes, procedures and expectations of elected and unelected personnel. It is hoped this will lead to clear and unambiguous guidelines for each group being included in the governance manual. Reviewing and resetting how all parts of council operates in this relationship provides an opportunity to set an inspiring example for co-governance. This relies on council ensuring an authentic and balanced treaty relationship that requires all parties to be open and transparent, fiscally accountable, and to act in good faith for the benefit of all. Thank you.
Thank you for that good presentation. I've got 2 questions, and any more than that, you just take them offline. Anna will be available for morning tea to chat to others. So Councillor Walker and Councillor Leone, please.
Sure. So I've just got a question around transparency. You referenced that in your last point when you spoke about transparency fiscally and the like. So my question goes to transparency around finances as it goes to Te Puna Monga and also consultation. Given that we're talking about public money that essentially is funding Te Puna Monga, what is your response around transparency over finances, both as it goes to funding that might be direct but also indirect, and are mindful of the considerable amount of money that council has funded through the legal expenses of Te Puna Monga that are effectively being met by council, and then around transparency as it goes to consultation. Thanks.
Well, in terms of transparency around finances, there's the operational plan and budget, which you all get to see every year, but the council also funds the authority through staffing and legal fees. I'm aware of at least $1 million worth of other funding. So the point around transparency is when you're considering budgets, you need to consider the whole package, because I'm aware that there's lots of budget cuts planned. But more to the issue around consultation is there seems to be, and this is the point of this presentation today, there seems to be a view in my observation that no changes can be made to what the council can't make any changes to the authority's requested budget. Now, last year there were big budget cuts proposed by council. Many people made submissions on how authority budgets could be reduced. I made a submission suggesting nearly $2 million worth of reduction, not a cent changed, and that happens every time. So there seems to be a view that council has no say or no right to make any changes, and in fact you do. You should. It's public money.
Thank you.
For that, Councillor Leone, please.
Kia ora, Anna. I just wanted to ask, were you aware that the Te Puna Monga Authority and the mahi that they're doing is moving towards being UNESCO sites, first of all? And then secondly, have you ever attempted to build a relationship with mana whenua and have those conversations? Kia ora.
Kia ora, Councillor Leone. In terms of, I'll answer the mana whenua one first because that's the fastest answer. Yes, absolutely, and for the most part, there's, even though, I've written, I've only had one uptake, so I have tried. In terms of UNESCO, very aware of UNESCO World Heritage, and I would note that there is I can't remember what the section is, but there's a section within the World Heritage criteria that is around having community support for the UNESCO World Heritage. And as you're all aware, the tree thing is hugely divisive and controversial in our community, and it's my belief that if the progress is made towards the World Heritage, then I think the community disquiet around the tree issue is going to get in the way. And so, it requires, like something that's divisive within communities is not a good thing. People want to see the trees saved. So hopefully this can be resolved so the World Heritage Bridge can go forward with all the community support. Yeah.
Good question. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Do I have a mover and a seconder to receive that? I'll move it.
No,
Seconded by-
excuse me, Mr Mayor, I heard the very last thing the presenter said was made a request for a report back to this committee or a workshop. I think that was the very last request that was made, so I'd like to add that as a B then,
Happy to
please.
second.
You can request, Ern, if you want to. We've got a whole lot of unfunded things to be done, but
This is
that's
no-
all right, but it's
no-
a simple report.
Yeah, no funding required, Mr Mayor.
First of all, there's a mover and a seconder to add on and note her request for a report. In favour of that?
No.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
There's no B there.
Opposition.
B would be and
Division.
note Ms Redford's request for a report. Is that correct?
Corporate division.
Committee or workshop, okay. Righto, we've got a move and a seconder for B, which is going up.
Sorry, councillor Foley requested a division on that.
Yeah, move and a seconder, and then we're going to have a division on that. Let's start of the day. Councillor Lee, you speak on this.
If it's on the table, Mr Mayor, I fully support your recommendation. I think it's essential that this council is obliged to avoid the $1 million plus legal costs that TMA occurred, paid for by the people of Auckland, by proceeding against the people of Auckland. We need to avoid that in future and sort out the
Point of
problems.
order, Your Worship.
Just got to stop there. Just at the moment, we've got a proposed amendment, moved and seconded, and a division called on the amendment, which is going to go up in a moment, which is there. That should be B, actually, if that's all right. Request staff to report back on the committee.
There's a point of order, Your Worship.
Eh?
There's a point of order from Councillor Filipaina.
Oh, is there? Okay, Councillor Filipaina, your point of order is?
Yeah. My point of order, Your Worship, is that once a division is called, that vote takes place without any interjection by any other councillor.
No, you're quite correct, and we've just knocked that one on the head. I'm just getting the thing right so that what it is that we're having a division on is quite clear. It is the request staff to report back. It should be B, I think, rather than A. Are you okay?
I have a question, Mayor.
Righto. So we're going to have a...
I'm not sure that Councillor Filipaina's point of order is actually valid, Mr Mayor, but I'll leave it at that.
It is valid.
Valid, and I hope it's not just a measure to try and shut people up because
I'm just taking advice from Sandra. Apparently, once a division is called, then we have to put it without debate.
That's correct.
That's the rules. So at the moment, we are having a division about the request staff to report back to the government body or to a workshop, which was an amendment proposed and seconded by Watson and Walker. That is the situation we're in. So Sandra will call for go through the division process.
This is a new, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but this is a new motion. It's just gone up. It's subject to debate. It's also subject to questions before debate, and I have a question of the Chief Executive.
You can't debate public input, and a division has been called, you must take it.
Yeah.
I'm sympathise with you, but under the rules, apparently once a division is called, you have to take it, which is...
There was no motion before us to call a division on. It was yet to go up when the division was called, so that seems very odd. And I indicated a question, but Look, I'm
I
gonna
agree
go
with you. It does seem very odd, but I'm guided by the person who is the referee on this.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, point of order. Can I just check the number that we're relying on in the standing orders for this?
Yeah, I can provide that, 7.7.6. Is this for the amendment, Councillor Henderson?
For the call on division.
Oh, sorry, no, I thought you were talking.
There's a dispute about it. It'd be good to get it in front of us.
Part of the rich tapestry of local government.
I will find it, but it is clear in standing orders that once a Councillor Henderson, I will get that for you in a moment, but standing orders are clear. Once a division has been called, it must be taken without debate. I'm sorry, there actually was a motion, it just wasn't up on the screen. We had actually received it before the vote had actually been taken.
Sandra's going to do the division.
Councillor
After that,
Baker.
we'll do multiplication.
For.
Councillor Bartley.
Against.
Councillor Dalton.
Against.
Councillor Darby.
Against.
Councillor Ferry.
Against.
Councillor Filipaina.
Against.
Councillor Foley.
Against.
Councillor Henderson.
Can't even see the motion, but against.
Oh, can you move it? They can't see the motion. They need to see. Councillor Henderson, are you against?
I'm against, thank you.
Councillor Hills.
Against.
Councillor Lee.
Aye.
Councillor Leone.
Against.
Councillor Newman. Councillor Sayers.
For.
Councillor Simpson. Councillor Stewart.
Or.
Councillor Turner. Councillor Walker. Councillor Watson. Councillor Williamson. Mayor Brown. Carried. That's carried 11 votes to 9.
Question for the Chief Executive. Would the funding for the writing of that report be from the discretionary budget?
There's no funding required.
There's currently no specifically allocated funding for the writing of that report.
That she requested a report back. Okay, we're noting that. Go back to receiving the Anna Radford's and note her request. We don't actually have to do it. We've done that?
Yep.
What a random morning. It is.